A few days ago we began the rains retreat, the Vassa, a traditional 3-month or so long time for us as in monastics, Buddhist monastics, to seclude ourselves, to work on ourselves and our practice. Traditional time period that was designated by the Buddha himself to encourage the Buddhist community to thrive, to individuals to thrive, especially the monastics, with less and less distractions. So it's a wonderful time for not just monastics, but all individuals to check our motives. Which could come in the form of a question that we could ask ourselves. What is my motive? What are my motives in doing this? In doing this, whatever it is that you dedicate yourself to doing, what is getting the primacy of your goals, your intentional actions? What is the major driving force behind it, behind them, if you have multiple goals you're pursuing? During the past few weeks, the question keeps coming up about kamma or karma. Different individuals have been asking us the importance of kamma, for which reason last week I gave the talk on the importance of identifying the various kinds, layers of kamma, how actions manifest as results, as consequences for the person, either in the same life or in another lifetime, or in the subsequent, immediately after this life is over. But it's a question that will keep coming up because it's an interesting, it's really genuinely juicy topic, because I say that because most of the time people have wrong concepts of what kamma is. Many times people think of it as a dark energy, as something that it's almost like a curse. Many people bring that whole notion of, oh, I'm cursed, oh, this is happening to me because of my kamma. But it could also be the positive things that are happening to you. Every single individual you can think of, you can see, you can hear on the news, etc., or maybe in your personal life, whom you might consider to be more fortunate than yourself, either for their status, for their wealth, for their height, for their look, for their money, etc., etc., prestige, all that is the result of kamma. Okay, and then what? Remember, there is the risk of falling into determinism, which the Buddha's teaching on kamma is not that. Determinism says this is how it is, so you're stuck with whatever things you've done in the past, and that's it, and you're going to face the music now. No. That's where the intentional action of now comes in, to change. So there isn't that determinism. Yes, kamma is important, but it's only part of the story. The Buddha never taught that it's all about kamma. Yes, our inheritance is the kammic effects of our actions that we have done, we've committed, yes. But there's always the possibility for you to introduce a wrench into the machine, basically, to shake things up, to change the algorithm, if you will. And for that, we have discourses, we have different suttas where Lord Buddha is discussing this. One in particular, in one particular sutta discourse, he says about old and new kamma. He's talking to the monks, the bhikkhus, the disciples, and he says, bhikkhus, know that there are two kinds of kamma. And everybody's all ears. They're like, what could you tell us more, Bhante? He says, whatever you have, he starts talking about the body, for example. The eye that you have, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, the skin, are all old kamma. Basically, it's yesterday's fare, yesterday's, in a sense, stale food, if you want to think of it like that. Meaning, it is the result of past actions that you've committed. Okay? That's old kamma. Most people don't know what they're doing. Why their motives are, they never question their motives. So the wealthy person, the rich person, the influential person, the powerful person, they're in those positions, but it's all because of their past kamma. Old kamma, yesterday's food. What are they doing with that? That's new kamma, the Buddha says. What you do with the eye, with the nose, with the ears, with the tongue, with the body, with your abilities, and with those resources that you have, the prestige, the money, the power, the height, the knowledge, the influence. What are you doing with that? So, I posit that question to people. What are we doing with our resources? Who are you living for? We never question this. I asked earlier, what is the momentum behind my drive to do this, to behave, to intentionally commit an action? Okay, but what is the real motive behind it? Why am I doing this? Most of us are driven by selfish means, and this is not a healthy selfishness I'm talking about now. It's the me, what's in it for me type of selfishness. What are we leaving for humanity once we're no longer here? This place is not a place where we can just come and harvest. Take from the world. Take from the people you meet, from relationships, family members, resource. That's also a resource, by the way. Education, you go to school, you gain. Yes, you're putting maybe the money, of course, but I meant the effort you're putting in to study, to not just get good grades, but really educate yourself. Experiences in social settings, all these things. You have tools compared to when you were 5 or 10. Okay, now you are much more enriched. What are you doing with all those tools? Most of us don't know how to answer that, or we never pondered it. Parents usually, or those individuals who have children, they will say, well, I'm working hard to leave it for my children, let's say. I want to have them have what I didn't have when I was their age, for example. Okay, fine. But that's getting out of it easy, as they say, that's not what I'm talking about. What are you really leaving for humanity? More than just your DNA, by the way, okay? Leaving behind more than your DNA. What are we really leaving behind? Most of us have not considered that question. So There's old kamma, there's new kamma. New kamma is what really matters, because you can make wonderful new kamma with the bad kamma that you have or you're stuck with. You might not have two functioning healthy legs, but even while limping on a single leg using crutches, you could still do wonderful things. You could be on a wheelchair and you can do marvelous things. You could be blind and you could write a symphony. You could play a symphony. So what are you doing? And what are you leaving behind? What legacy are we leaving behind? Most people don't. So my encouragement here is for people to enhance their scope, to think big, to do things for the sake of humanity, for the sake of enriching humanity. That's how we enrich. That's how we leave a healthier, stronger, more brilliant, wonderful, peaceful, harmonious, constructive, not destructive humanity when we're no longer here. But that, in my opinion, starts with the work we put on ourselves in our lives by working on ourselves. Changing your attitude towards things, towards collecting things, towards gaining things, towards absorbing from life, sucking the energy out of life, basically abusing the resources of life. Commanding your will upon life. Taking. It's a wonderful thing to also be giving, you know. That's the thing that many meditators do not understand. Or those who come to Buddhism. They're thinking of adding more things instead of giving up things that have been there. Giving up the suffering, giving up their attachments. The wonderful thing about an arahant, whom you can call a saint, a true saint, the fourth stage awakened one, is that they become less magnetic. Meaning, what I'm trying to say is, think of those magnetic cranes that usually are found in junkyards or places like that, or scrap yards, I think they're called, where you have tons, piles and hills made of scrap metal. And you have these huge cranes with a flat disc underneath that it's magnetized. So that crane moves that donut-shaped, huge donut-shaped magnet over the scrap metal and magnetizes it, and then picks up I don't know how many tons of metal to move it from this place over there and put it into, let's say, the smelting place, the factory, wherever they melt all that. But imagine, how did they drop all that couple of ton of scrap metal? They demagnetize it. Well, that's what I mean by the arahant becoming less magnetic, meaning the arahant demagnetizes all his attachments, all her attachments to things. And that's what's, it's a natural product, by the way, from living life in a way where it's for others. That's the most wonderful legacy that any being, any universe could ever leave behind. And that is what the Buddha was. That is what his arahant bhikkhus were and still are. to this day. So can you demagnetize yourself from all the junk that you're carrying? Because you would be lightening the load. Imagine that. So it's not an adding of things when you are practicing. You're not adding more junk, more Dhamma junk. Okay? You have a lot of people who carry a lot of Dhammic junk. What I mean by that is theories, concepts, techniques, quote-unquote experiences, even insights, all these things. Well, the moment you are becoming possessive towards any of this, the moment you have any kind of a passionate attachment to any of this, underneath the title or guise of Dhamma, it's junk. Because what needs to happen is you losing that sense of this is mine, this is how I identify myself, etc., etc. Because the true arahant, the true practitioner, must be feeling, experiencing, and demonstrably showing to the world. Naturally, the others will see around this person that he or she is becoming more and more demagnetized in their holding on, in their wanting to have upadana. Upadana means the grabbing onto and holding on to things. So the moment you don't grab onto anything, while you persevere, while you do your very best in life, using whatever your old karma has brought, okay? You continue doing your very best, you would definitely be adding more good karma. But not just for the sake of adding more karma, but you're also doing it for the sake of those around you, including those that you don't know, you don't see, you will never know. Because they will be touched by the work you leave behind, by the legacy you leave behind. So what is your legacy? So that's a good question. I guess that might be, in a way, the third question to ask yourself, right? Because it pulls you out from this very small, narrow frame of mind. This is what I used to encourage by speaking to clients and patients who would have suicidal ideations. When I used to see clients and patients as a therapist. So it would take time to allow the person to move away from that framework, narrow framework of them being so hurt or misunderstood or unfulfilled, sad, terribly sad, hurt. And to give them a new dimension, much wider dimension for them to consider, such as the hurt they would leave behind as a legacy. So I would always bring in the image of if they had loved ones, if they have a grandmother, if they had nieces and nephews. And I would say, okay, how will that impact your nephew, your niece? And that, I found, to be one of the quickest way to bring them out of their world. And suddenly I would see them almost in tears. Very quickly, almost, when I say almost. The moment I mention that, because they would never have considered that. Because the person is so obsessed about, stuck in their own world of pain. Despite the fact that it is extremely, it's traumatic. They don't know what to do, but you just gave them a window. You opened a window, a crack in the door, and now they're getting fresh air. They're like, no, I don't want them to suffer. Because I would ask, how do you think this will impact your grandmother, your sister, whom you say you love? Oh, it was just, imagine she's coming home from your funeral. How is she feeling? How does your niece feel when, let's say, 20 years down the road, and your niece is facing life's challenges? What do you think she's going to think when she's caught in, a dead end she can't get out of? She doesn't have any kind of healthy resolution. Who do you think she's going to think of? Ah, my uncle committed suicide 20 years ago. Would you be cheering her on to go ahead with such a thing? And they would say, no, no, no. They would shake their head side to side. They were like, no, I wouldn't want that. I said, okay. So what you're doing then, you're allowing the person to broaden their scope, their vision. You're pulling them out from that tiny little small hole, dark hole, into the world. And this is another way of looking at the person, allowing the person to look at a bigger vista of possibilities. I've never had anybody says, or stay stuck on, no, I don't care. Sooner or later, they will find a person, they will say, no, I don't want to hurt them. I didn't realize that by my taking this step and ending my life, I would be causing harm to such people. So it's not about you putting an end to your suffering, you're adding suffering to other people's lives. Well, what kind of a legacy is that? So now you've added more trauma, more bad karma in this life to you, as well as to others, and in the next one. Because you don't know what kind of a chain reaction you're starting with this action. So similarly, what I'm trying to say here is also to consider the opposite of this. What kind of a legacy do you really want to leave behind for the world? Do you want to heal the world? Do you want to add to the wealth of knowledge and wisdom and beauty, kindness, compassion, clarity, authenticity, which we don't seem to have in the world today? People don't say what really is being said, or what needs to be said, rather. Everybody is it's just nonsense. It's inauthentic. So can you leave some of that genuineness that you experience for the world? For yourself, of course. You can't just think about legacy and sacrifice yourself meanwhile. No, it doesn't work like that. So joy is a requirement. So when you check your motive behind your action that you're committing, you start cheering yourself on to do more of the thing that brings meaning and fulfillment to your life. And now you start looking over your desk to the other person by adding a little bit more ease and comfort for someone else, putting a smile on their face. Already you're changing the world, by the way. You don't know what might happen in the next 5 minutes. You might never see that person again, but you have left your mark, a positive, beautiful mark in someone else's life. You created a wonderful momentum. And this is one of the quickest, easiest steps you can take to really change your life. Because what you're also doing is you're intentionally committing the action, the mental action, which is number one, according to what the Buddha taught. The mental action is number one. What you think of, how you process, how you ponder, how you comprehend, how you contemplate. That's number one. And therefore how you determine and intend. That's the main action from which sprouts the verbal action, which is speech, communication methods. And then finally the physical manifestation of all that, the physical bodily action. Imagine all these three are flowing constantly out of you without you having any desire to, it's always about me type of a thing. What's in it for me? That mentality is out. Because when you're thinking about others and how you can put a smile on someone else's face and really bring a cheer to their lives, you're also enhancing your own. It cannot be where you're giving away something and it's leaving you empty-handed. It's impossible for you to cause true joy for someone else and not have that affect you. It's impossible. It's like you washing your hands with dirty hands with soap and water. One hand is doing the job. The other hand is, let's just pretend that it's staying still and it's not doing anything. All the work is being done with one hand. Okay. Afterwards, you look, let's say if it was the right hand washing the left, you look over and the left is completely washed. But is it really only the left hand that was washed? You look over to the right and boy, look at that. They're both clean. So what is your motive? What is your legacy that you want to leave behind? So de-magnetize yourself from all that junk. The me, myself, what's in it for me? Because the bigger picture is much bigger. It's not going to be just this. The world that you see, you might not be happy, and most of us are not because of the injustices and unfair treatment to so many people, the fake, the injustice, the promotion of criminality and harming of people who are just being deprived of their lives. Truth being, people, massive, billions of people are being lied to. Every corner of the world. Okay, but this is now. This is also part of, as a response to our karma, our old karma. That's why we landed here instead of in some golden era, Because of our karma, we brought ourselves into this world at a time period where there isn't that much virtue. Where you have to talk so much, explain so much for people to understand that no. Okay, I guess I can't come to your home and steal stuff from you. Oh, I guess I have to control myself instead of coming over and killing you to get what you have and I don't. All this is backwards. This is the outcome of old karma. But it won't stay like that. If we think and function and move in the direction of creating new karma that is wholesome, that is good for us and others. If it's truly good for us, it will be for others as well. Sukhyot.